In case you missed our last episode of Life with the Polites MRL, Marriage, Relationships, and Love, here's what you missed. This evening's topic deals with what many people in relationships have found themselves in and also have lived through. And by our own means of learning and moving through life. Our topic this evening is entitled Growth Isn't for Everybody. Some people are comfortable staying the same. And I want us to think about this here before we get into it, because there's something that's connected to that. I said that growth isn't for everyone. Some people are comfortable remaining the same. And what's connected to that is our maturity. Our maturity, our growth. Is that what scares people who don't want to change? I want you to think about that as we get into the episode. Let's get into it. We start tonight's episode with two questions for our family and friends tonight. Why are so many people afraid of change? Why are so many people frightened of the growth by others who seek change, who seek wisdom as part of their growth and their maturity in life? I think this is huge for where we're going tonight, because it's a domino effect on how people view and embrace change. And in the marriage relationship realm, we've all found out that relationships, many of us, have found ourselves in relationships where we've given our love to the wrong person. And that love has been abused. And that abuse have left many of us with hurt feelings. We've all been there. Have left us with hurt feelings, have left us wounded and afraid of caring and loving again. And again, I want us to really think about something here as we talk about this, because it's not the love that I believe that people are afraid of. It's not the love that people are afraid to embrace and share. I believe it's the fear. It's the fear that everyone else, just like the last person who have hurt us. I think that is where the rubber meets the road with a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight. It's understanding of looking over the shoulder and assuming that everyone else is like what I just went through. I truly do not believe it's the love, because that's part of our makeup. It's the fear of what the domino will come next, will remind us of being wounded, is reminding us of the fear. And one of the things I think a lot of us will understand as we get through life and as we continue our journey of bettering ourselves is that the conflict and the struggle are real. And I say that simply behind what I said before. We've been through a very rough time, in some of our relationships. And coming out of those relationships, we've had to become focused. And we have become determined to deal with what was. So the conflict and the struggle is real. And that also makes me really to think about why so many people resist, or there is a strong resistance of change. And let's think about it. And again, we talk about things in which we've all lived through. We talk about things that in part of going into relationships, we've all played a part. We've been a part of it. We've been on the wrong side of the spear. We've had our feelings hurt. We've been left. We've been wounded. And the focus here is coming out of that. Many people have a very strong resistance to change. And again, we ask ourselves, and many of us who've lived through it, we understand the why behind it. We understand the why, because change comes with uncertainty. That's why there's such resistance. Change comes with uncertainty. You can't control it. You can't control the change. You can't form it, shape it to come out to the outcome that you want. I said earlier that the conflict and the struggle is real. And when we come out of that, that's where many of us find ourselves. We can't control what comes next. And in many cases, that's the result, I believe, where people shy away from change. Because it takes an enormous effect. It's a load. It's a load that many of us have lived with and lived through. And when I say that we shy away from change, because many are fearful about the outcome that comes from change. It's not a one and done. It's not something that is turnkey, that it's automatic and life goes on. There is an emotional load that comes along with it. And we have to be very careful with ourselves when pursuing to become better. We come to the point where there's many things in which goes into how we overcome. But one of the things that we do understand as we go through is that growth and comfort cannot coexist. It can't. You can't be comfortable and still want to grow and come out of that type of atmosphere. One has to lead the other. Our desire to change must be greater than our desire to stay the same. That's what I'm saying. They can't coexist. Some people say enough is enough. When you get to that point when the pain has taken you to levels to where you must change, growth and comfort cannot coexist. There's a ladder that has to happen. There's a ladder that has to move to another level to where you want to pursue it. And for many of us to get there, we must grow through what we've gone through. That's how we're going to only get there. We're going to have to grow through what we've gone through. And in many cases, we think about it and to a fact that, we talk about what we've experienced. We talk about the pain that comes along with it. But, when we really think about it, in many cases, if we continue to focus on the hurt that we've endured, all we're doing is continuing to suffer. But if we focus on the lesson learned, we'll grow and we'll mature. I said earlier, coming on the wrong end of the spear sharpens us. It takes us to a level in which we're either going to endure in a state in which there's no growth, or we're going to find two things that's within us that's going to promote us to seek better. And many of us have came out of relationships where it took some time. It took some time to really restart. And it could be from many reasons. It could have been from how hurtful the last relationship was. It could be from the other ingredients that were involved into it. It was a fact that you didn't see what was happening actually coming. It takes an enormous load on many of us to regain ourselves in moving forward. And it takes time. Everyone's path to go forward isn't like everyone else's. The pain is different. The wound, the scars are deeper. And again, we have to get to the point to where we understand just how we are going to rebound and move forward. Let me share this, and this is my opinion. When we're talking about the relationship realm, growth begins when we start to accept our vulnerabilities. And this is an opinion of mine that I believe takes us from one part to the next. And what's behind it all is that strength and growth comes only through effort, continuous effort, and struggle. Now, that may be hard for people to understand, but here's my thought behind it. It deals with the two C's. We have to get the confidence and the courage within ourselves to do the things that are difficult. That's why it's important for us to struggle sometimes. And why is that sometimes? Because we don't get to know ourselves without struggling. We don't get to know ourselves without struggling. And when we think about that message, we all have been there. When I said earlier, I want to use the word motivation. The motivation to restart sometimes is a little slower because of some of the things and what we went through. It takes a little time. And we get there because for many of us, we have to go to war within ourselves to fix ourselves. That means that we have to really go back and repair the damage, the scars, the wounds, for us to really re-engage to move forward. And for many people, it's making themselves uncomfortable because that's the only way they're going to be able to change. Sometimes it takes us an enormous amount of time to really focus on how we're going to grab hold of the two C's, confidence and courage. I say it easily, but for many people, that's a buildup. That's a buildup. A lot of people doesn't just initiate that. It takes watering to really turn the switch to say, I can do this. It takes an enormous amount of leverage for us to really come to the point to say, this has happened, but I'm capable of doing this. It takes us an enormous point to say that I can be better in spite of the things in which I've endured. We don't know who we are until we get tested. And that's how we get to a lot of the fixing that I'm talking about. Our testing is going through some of the things that's put us in the position of the hurt, the scars, and the pain. And what I said earlier is that sometimes after that, we have to fix ourselves. We have to go to war within ourselves to regain our posture and our positioning to move forward. Sometimes that's not as easy said and done, but that's a focus where a lot of us have to spend some time at. We have to spend some time with what we have gone through. What we have gone through helps us to grow through it. A lot of people may say, well, why you want to relive that? Because there's something there that's going to make us see a way in which we will have to grow and get better. That's taking our eyes off the hurt and focusing on the lesson learned. Not think about the suffering, but listen and focusing on what's going to make us mature and grow to a level in which we can become the better. I said earlier that it takes us different degrees for a restart. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't really think about the continuous effort and struggle that goes along to regain your footing in life. Not just a relationship going bad, but in life. To regain it, it takes that amount of momentum within ourselves to recharge ourselves. Last Friday, we spent a little time talking about tough relationship breakups. We spoke about how they happen. We spoke about that they hurt. We spoke about the difficulties that one who suffered the hurt and the damages from a breakup goes through. And that kind of connects to what we're talking about right now, because when we connect the dots and we are talking about coming out of that type of hurt, whatever we're not changing, we're choosing. And if we're choosing, and if that's the case, we're choosing the pain of being wounded over change. And that's where we have to really, again, re-engage ourselves if we're going into the negative versus the positive. Because we're looking for strength. We're looking for capability. We're looking for what's within ourselves to drive us. Let me just say this for a moment. And I say this sincerely because I truly believe many of us have been to the point in a relationship where we have to now be driven. Driven is a hard word, but behind it, it packs the potential to restart your life. To know that the principle behind where you are is farther better than the situation that where you are presently at. And sometimes we have to sometimes we have to be driven within to really turn the knob and walk out the door and start anew. Because the longer we refuse to drive ourselves, we will remain comfortable. And for some people, not everyone, but for some people, just being comfortable and being in a pity party environment, that's not going to be healthy. That's not going to promote your strength and your courage and your confidence to regain who you are. Being driven takes a lot of discipline. To be driven takes an enormous amount of discipline, of truly understanding I got to do this. I have to promote myself to a larger role in my life, to overshadow the pain, to overshadow the wounds and the scars that I'm facing. But one of the things I think is also very important for us to truly understand that if we're choosing, and a lot of this is driven by people who are comfortable remaining the same. If we're choosing the pain of being wounded over change, we also have to understand there are two outcomes. There are two outcomes that either we embrace or we clarify what's important to us. It's only two outcomes. We either hold on to a behavior of fear, which reflects the results of what we've experienced, or we choose to act with courage, even when we feel fear. There's only two outcomes. There's only two. We either embrace the behavior of fear or we act with courage. Having courage is us making a decision. The latter is just being comfortable. Think about what I'm saying here. Growth isn't for everyone. Some people like to remain the same. That's being comfortable. And when you choose the courage, you're telling yourself you're making a decision. And that what takes us out of the comfortable zone of wanting to stay the same. We have to focus on those two areas if we're going to promote that drive that I was talking about. Because clearly there's a lot of people, and I can honestly say many of us have been a part of it, and many of us know people who have adopted a behavior of fear because of what they went through. And many people on the other end have taken on the discipline and the drive to make a decision to become better. We've said from the outset, and again, this is what we're talking about, those that are comfortable with themselves, is that they're not truly embracing the better in their lives. They're being sucked in by pain. We said growth isn't for everyone because, again, it's because it makes people uncomfortable. Growth is taking a hard look at yourself. It's taking a hard look at yourself and identifying what needs to change in your life. A lot of people don't have that makeup. A lot of people look away from what they got to do and are content on just being comfortable and live with the pain and the scars of what was. And I say that simply because, and again, many of us have lived this. Many of us have our own story to talk about this. Many of us know what it means to be confined by the walls that we've built within ourselves. That's what I'm saying. Many of us know that. We've built the same wall that we will not penetrate because of the fear and the pain. And what we have to really get around and focus on to is that progress is impossible without change. To take yourself to the next level, to come out of that pity party, progress is impossible without change. We cannot grow from what has hurt us by remaining who we are. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. We must forget what hurt us in the past, but never forget what it has taught us. That comes along with the ride. That's the drive I was talking about. That's the momentum. That is what is going to take many of us to walk out the door and truly understand what the next level in our lives are. We can't change what went wrong in a past situation. The only thing we can change is how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to be responsive to it, how we're going to not put our focus on what we went through, but place the original origin of whom we are wanting to be and working to be that person ahead of us. Sometimes it takes a little more than just not doing what you need to do. Sometimes we have to put ourselves out there. Sometimes we have to make the decision that this is what I have to do. But again, we have a lot of people that are very comfortable wanting to stay the same, and they want to stay the same because in their minds, it's cushioning themselves from getting hurt. Again, we've all been around this. We've all been around people that want to remain cushioned from not wanting to be hurt. But the true life reality teaches us three things: that people are not going to stop hurting people. People are not going to stop taking advantage of people. And there is no relationship guaranteed in not getting hurt. That's just facts. That's just facts. So we have to get to the point to where we have to truly understand this. We have to understand and embrace the courage and the confidence to grow. Here's a question that I think also that family and friends, I want you to really think about. Because in spite of all of what we're talking about, our maturity, our growth is what grabs people's attention. It grabs people's attention and it can scare people. It can scare people who don't want to change. I said courage, and I've been talking about confidence. And I believe people struggle with what's bringing forth truly within them because they don't have the drive to do so. But here's a question that I want to put to the family and friends online. Has anyone ever had the confidence or the courage of what you've gone through and it made people angry? I want you to think about that. And it made people angry because I believe the anger is just a cover-up for being scared. Those people have seen what you've been through. They've seen the hurt and the pain that you went through in your past, and that now you're more focused on becoming better. If anyone can truly understand that, leave a note in the chat, because that's truly where a lot of people are. Because some people are not willing to really put all into themselves to become better, and not willing on really becoming better is what's going to make us truly be the person that can look at the scars of their lives and become a more positive person and environment of whom they want to be. I said before, when we get to the point where we can leave the fear behind us, in doing so, we've stopped being afraid. That's why that's just vice versa of the people that want to remain comfortable. They can't leave the fear and the hurt behind them. So they take it for a ride wherever they go. We are to constantly remind ourselves that in doing what we have to do to become that better person at the next level, we are stop being afraid. That's what we're doing. And we'll start believing in everything that can go wrong. That's what we're doing. And now we're thinking about what can go right. And I said earlier that you see people that they get angry and it's a cover up because they're really scared, because they actually see this. They realize this. They realize that you now have the drive and the discipline to no longer be the person who went through this bad situation, but you've uncovered a means to grow and mature and learn from what it's taught you. When we can stop and leave the fear behind us, we come to a point to where we are on the mark, on the road to be that person. We're on the mark to be that person. Because if we don't sacrifice for what we want to become in our lives, then we remain a sacrifice. Remember that. If we cannot do what we need to do, we will remain a sacrifice for what happens next. We're refusing the drive. We're refusing the discipline. We are not promoting ourselves in areas of confidence and courage. Then what are we doing? What are we doing? Our feelings change hour by hour and minute by minute. And if we base our lives on feelings, our lives are just as unstable as our feelings. So we have to be able to become realistic in what we need to do. Can many of us do that? Are we truly dedicated to wanting to make that type of continuous effort to become what we need to become? We talk about the difficulties because it's never easy. I think a lot of people look away and turn away of the point of struggling and coming out a tough relationship. But we all have came out of tough relationships. We've all struggled of coming out of tough relationships. And we've brought some of the hurt with us, only to come mature and grow and leave it behind us. But it's part of it. It's part of it. We don't know who we are until we're tested. We don't know who we are until we've went through the struggles. And how we get there is we have to show up. Many people don't show up. They take the scars, they take the hurt, and they lie down. You have to show up. You have to become the person that you've acknowledged the vulnerabilities, you've acknowledged your weaknesses, but you're now promoting yourself. A lot of people don't want to promote themselves enough as they've endured. And when we come to the point to where we can promote ourselves, then we're on the leverage of becoming the person that we crave. There isn't a person out here that doesn't have scars. There isn't a person out here that's never been wounded. There's never been a person that I believe that have came out business as usual in regards of having the right type of relationship. We've all went through relationships where we've been tested. We've done the good and the bad. And we've gotten to the point to where we've gotten the negative that we've had to go back to work and do the things that were needed for us to regain our posture and move on. Whatever we're not changing, we're choosing. I said that earlier, but that's where a lot of people live at. A lot of people live at not changing, and in regards, they choose to remain as if it's okay. It's okay to choose the pain of being wounded and turn away from the change that's only going to promote them and take them to where they need to go. It's about making a decision of going forth in your life and doing the things that needs to do. You know, one of the things that I also believe that's very, very important for many of us to truly understand is that we are going to go through certain situations where we're going to have to bring forth who we are currently and leave who we were behind us. And that takes a lot of courage and that takes a lot of confidence in ourselves to not worry what other people have to say. No one can tell your story like you can. Everyone has a narrative, but the only narrative that matters is yours, especially if you're the one that had to endure. But I say all that for us to truly understand bringing forth what truly lies within us is the driver that I've been talking about that makes us into the person that we are fulfilling to be. And for those that lack that driver, they they lack it because of inconsistencies and the unwillingness to want to be motivated to be better now instead of later. And that's another cause that I believe that people cling to. I got time. I got time. Moving at a snail's pace. I got time. Well, life is moving on at a pace in which we have to change and we have to find ourselves in areas in our lives where we have to keep the blazing trail of life alive. Confidence and courage. We have to come to the point of we have to have what we need to be strong. How do we become strong? How do we leave the fear behind us and position ourselves to be victorious and moving forward with strength and positiveness when we've been rejected and hurt? Those are the only means in which we can do it. Confidence and courage. When we can turn around and look at the fear behind us and move ahead. That's the only way we can do it. We can't move being comfortable. We can't move on just accepting what has happened and not truly realizing that there is better and not becoming focused on becoming better. It just doesn't happen. We have to promote ourselves. We have to promote ourselves in a level in which We're not going to allow the scars in our lives to keep us down in a level in which we were hurt. And we move forward, not truly in a sense in which we are not learning where we came from, but truly embracing the lessons that we've learned to become better. We've realized the hurt, we've left the pain, and we move. That's easier said than done, but without it, we remain the same. And that's the focus on what we're talking about. Without those things in which we've just spoken about, we remain the same. We remain the same. And we've all been there. We've all know people that have been there and know people currently who remains there because you fill in the blank. But one thing I'm assured of, for those of us that we know that are still there, they're not there because they have the confidence and the courage to leave. They're there because they haven't turned their back on the fear. They're there because they're still astute to the fear. The fear still has them bound. But for us to get to a level in which we move beyond that, we come to the point to where we gravitate to what's better. And again, the hard lessons learned is the lessons that we've all lived through. We've all been challenged with. We've all came up short, and we've gotten the point to where now the discipline now plays a major factor of us becoming that better person. And I truly believe, as I said earlier, what really holds a lot of people in a bad situation is because they're trying to have growth and comfort all together, and you can't have it. You have to reject one to move forward with the next. And we move forward when we truly understand this is how we defeat the fear and we embrace the life that we're choosing to have. No one's saying that the scars don't come along with the ride, but they're our battle marks to tell ourselves we've been there. And many of us have been there. Many of us have been there through the hurt. Many of us have been there through the pain. Many of us have been through exactly what we've been discussing, and we've made the steps necessary to get to the point to where many of us are right now. No one's never said that it was easy. But I think we all that are actually thinking about this knows that it took some time. It wasn't turnkey. It took us time to build the momentum to get to where we're going. And for others, it could have been sudden. The refusal to accept or embrace that type of pain and scars. For others, it could have been even quicker. But for some, it takes a little time for them to deal with the pain and the rejection and the hurt. So growth is measured. And once we've gotten to the point to where we can see that we can take the scale to a higher level, then we move on accordingly. We understand that there's a lot that the conflict and the struggle of what goes on in a relationship brings upon us. And the scale of it can be, as I mentioned earlier, very hard for people. Everyone handles weight of a relationship differently. But once we've gotten to the point to where we are now able to let go the weight, that we've been able to see ourselves in a different light, we've been able to now honestly see that we can move at a level to where we can overcome the pain, the scars, and the wounds and not be rejected or feel that everyone that comes in our lives will be like the one that hurt us, we're moving in the right direction to fulfill a fruitful life. And I truly believe, as I said earlier, I don't believe it's not the love that many people that are afraid of. It's the fear that everyone else is like the person that hurt them. And that's a point to where a lot of people have to move away from, because everyone's not made that way. Everyone doesn't have a heart to take advantage of people. Everyone doesn't have an agenda coming into a relationship. But it takes people a earnest journey to come out of it and see that there are people that are willing, that people are caring, and people are in a different mindset of life. We say all of that just to recognize the fact that we move out of our comfort zone to become better. And the only way we're going to come better is that we sacrifice. We have to sacrifice within to see the light at the tunnel and the road that we have to take. And that road is a very, very long and hard road, because we're taking the scars along with us. But part of the road is to really feed ourselves and encourage ourselves to be the person that we are choosing to be, and not the person that's walking around being hurt or wounded. Again, that's easier said than done, but for many of us that have lived this life, have went through this life, we've been victorious through it. The conflict and the struggle is real, but we overcome them. We overcome them by not shying away, but moving forward. And we come through because we are able now to live with an outcome, because our eyes are now seeing what we're capable of doing. Our mind has shifted, and now we've been able, with confidence and courage, to bring us to another level of whom we are, how we are responsive, how we are living. That's the result that we're achieving. That's what we have grown through. That's what we've gone through. And that's what we've learned to grow and mature. It's very hard when, for a lot of us, we've had to embrace this type of hurt. And for all of us who have actually lived this life, we know exactly where many of us have been. We've been, and we've understood, and we've understand how hard it is emotionally, and what weight it really binds us on to keep going and to keep moving. But one of the things I just want to close and I want to say before we leave is that we are always in a position to make the decision to turn away from the fear and to acknowledge the promises of being able to move with boldness. And that's another means of us understanding the positiveness of having that courage, of refusing to be held by fear of what you've endured, and create a boldness in yourself to move forward and strive and leave behind the hurt and the pain, but bring along the lessons that have taught us how the conviction of boldness can help us to the next level. I say that in all honesty to truly understand that what we've lived through, many of us have been able to live through because it has taught us to be stronger. And we've become stronger because we've learned to be determined. And we've learned to be determined because it sets us free. Well, I thank you for joining us for our last episode of the month for Life with the Polites. Again, Lady P and I look forward to 2025 with our new online telephone bridge that will be able to bring in your calls, your comments while we're on the air. I truly want to thank everyone that were able to listen to the episode and be a part of the episode, if not present while it was aired live or once it's off live. But I want us to understand that as we continue to move forward in all that we are pursuing in our relationships, in our marriages, and the relationships that are bringing forth, that we continue to have a mind that will always be centered on doing the things that are good, doing the things that are positive, doing the things that are uplifting. Because people with warm, conditioned hearts will always reveal themselves to us. It's the spirit that leads us and guides us to the people that dig, that gives us an ear to hear. So I leave you with saying that stay tuned, be blessed, be safe, and see you to the next episode of Life with the Polites 2025. God bless.